So I am super excited today to welcome to the show my very special friend, Tracy Cotton, who is going to, share a bit of her life story with us, her career, the other stuff that goes on in life. And so I'm really excited for this opportunity to just get to know you better. So we first met face to face in New Orleans, correct? I
Yes.
believe. Yeah. So I feel like a lot of the people that I know and love in this insurance space, I either met in Cleveland or in New Orleans. And then,
And I don't know how I missed you in Cleveland because I was there too, but we didn't actually connect until
yeah,
New Orleans. It's such a big crowd. It's hard sometimes if you don't know exactly who you're looking for. And,
yes.
and even then it's like, oh, what, anyway.
Yeah. And I was so new to this like crazy insurance group. Like I didn't even know what the 5 a.m. club was at that point. So it was just Cleveland was like, how much can I take in at once? And then just got to connect with other people because we have such a great community that keeps everybody connected. Like we introduce people, we stay in touch with each other through social media. So even though we don't get to see each other very often or be in the same room together, maybe it's only been the New Orleans. We haven't been in the same room together. We stay in touch. And I love that. I love that about the industry that we're in, that it's such a close knit and loving group that we're part of. So I'm excited to dive into some fun stuff today, get to know you a little bit better. Cause I think we're on this journey together and I'm excited that you're part of my world. And I look forward to just getting to share your story with other people so they can get to know the amazing woman that I know. So first things first, though, are you a coffee drinker?
Am I a coffee drinker?
Yeah.
155%.
Okay. So how much coffee do you consume in a day?
Well, so my coffee pot says 10 cups. I think it's lying, but I do like fill it up and then I have like 2 of these and then a cup at home. And this still has some from this morning. I probably won't finish this last little bit, but I have an hour commute. And so I need a little bit to get me going in the morning while I'm getting ready. And then I really need some during the commute to kind of like keep me focused.
Yeah.
It's a long enough commute. It's early in the morning. And then once I get to my desk, a lot of times that's where it starts like, okay, now I've got like water and other things I'm trying to consume and be the good thing. But I do love my coffee.
Yes, I do too. I do. I can't imagine a morning without coffee. I don't know how I survived 3 pregnancies not having coffee like on an IV drip, which it's basically, yeah, I'm a full pot drinker as well at this point in my life. I do think I should cut back, but it's going to be a process. So I want to talk about your insurance journey, because you've had this career where you've touched so many different parts of the industry. You're so well-rounded in the experiences that you've had, and you've channeled all of those things together to make this career that you absolutely love and you're super passionate about. And so I want to talk about that. I want to talk about like I know a lot of people know your 50 for 50 journey, but I want to talk about your favorite experiences from that, your scariest ones, the ones that you would do over and the ones you would never ever do over again. And also, you know what? I don't even know, like, family wise, like what makes up family for you. So as far as, let's start out with your passion for insurance, where it was born, where it's taken you. Okay, you have to remind me where you live.
So I'm in West North Carolina now, but that's not where I got started. I got started in Middle Tennessee. I grew up in Tennessee, and
that's right. You're a Nashville girl.
I was a Nashville girl, so I made the Nashville to
Am I going to see you in Nashville?
Maybe.
Okay, we'll work on that.
It may be an after hours kind of thing because I literally, it's one of those kind of deals where I think that I may just try to like kind of be around.
Yeah.
I miss people and I like to go back and visit as often as I can anyway. So
yeah, well, I will take whatever bits and pieces of Tracy that I can get. So all right.
I like it.
Yes. So on with your story. Sorry about that.
So I went to college in Clarksville, Tennessee. I went to Austin P. Did not do anything insurance related. I actually was a psychology major, business minor. Thought maybe I wanted to go into human resources. Ended up in retail. That wasn't fun. It was management still, but it was just retail.
Yeah.
And like you did back in the day, I was just reading the newspaper, actually reading the newspaper and looking at want ads, because that's what you did before monster.com. And there was an ad for an underwriter, and they were going to be basically forming a class, and then they were going to be picking from the class who would actually be hired. And I decided to show up. And after 30 days, I got offered a position to be an underwriter for non-standard auto coverage. In other words, that high risk type of auto coverage, only auto at the time, for North Carolina was the state I was assigned to. Here I was in Tennessee. We wrote in 11 different states, and North Carolina was my assigned state. And I remember talking to agents on the phone all day, because as an underwriter, I was their point of contact if they had questions, there were issues and so forth. And I thought, man, these crazy people, I could so be an agent. I mean, that must be easy. They think they're so special, because in North Carolina, they would call me up and they would just say, well, in North Carolina, this is what we do. And I was always like, whatever, we write in other states. And I knew the guidelines for all the states, because I had to learn all of them in that training class before I ever got to set foot back in the underwriting section. And so I didn't think it was any big deal until I decided to move to North Carolina. Wow. And then had to pass the test. And I was like, wow, this is pretty heavy. It was very thorough. The actual testing is pretty stringent, I think, for North Carolina. And then the continuing education requirements are pretty stringent. It was a great program, and I felt good about doing it. But I came to North Carolina, became an insurance agent. And that was really how I got my start. And I started in personal lines because that was my background. So since I had worked with personal insurance, I just transitioned into that department. And I was there for about 14 years total, between a couple of years at one agency, and then I switched to the agency that I work at now, and have been there really ever since, with the exception of 1 year that I spent out on the road as a consultant for another company that doesn't exist anymore. But it was really just, it felt so comfortable. I loved working with people anyway. It just felt like I was home. And once I got into that position, I thought, oh, I'll do this forever. I'll never go to that dark side of commercial lines. And then one day, after some things had gone on in the agency and the department I was in, and I just felt really burned out on personal lines, I was given the opportunity to move over into commercial, and I took it. Yeah. And that's been almost 10 years ago now. Wow. And that's what I started out with once I got into commercial lines, doing that. And it was a CSR for most of that, although I did some producing when I was in personal lines and worked with high net worth clients and understood a lot about risk management. And so that helped me very much, as time went by. But I got into commercial lines, and I was happy being a CSR for the most part until I went off and did my consulting gig. And when I came back, I just wanted more. I knew that I wanted to do more than just be a CSR. And that opportunity came when I got back. That was 7 years ago. I've been back in the agency since 2012. And at that point, I was really just assigned to try to bring in new business into our Marion, North Carolina location. It was a little bit of a commute, but it certainly being on the road 4 days to 5 days a week when I was a consultant. So I was kind of ready. I didn't mind the commute, and I still don't mind the commute because it's been great. This is a great community that I get to work in. And I also live in a great community, just happens to be like about an hour drive apart. But at some point I started realizing, okay, there's only so much small commercial that I can write before really I'd like to find something that's a niche for me. Yeah. And that was 5 years ago. It was literally based off of a phone conversation that I was having with Joey Giangola on one of his pop-up podcasts, where he literally called me up and acted like he was just talking to me.
This is his first podcast? Because you were you were the first, right?
In your words, or in their words. And I was number one. He called me up and acted like he was just being my friend and like just asking me how things were going and just talking to me. And next thing I know, I'm on a podcast. He told me at the end, by the way, I recorded all this for a podcast. And I was like, that seems so wrong.
Were you like, don't you need to get my permission to record this phone conversation?
This is a little, but at the same time, I was like, what a cool idea. And I know that you're hoping that people are going to be more honest with you, not knowing they're being interviewed for any specific thing. And in that conversation, literally, he said, what do you really want to do? And I said, I really want to do farm insurance. And he goes, what's stopping you? And I said, well, nothing, I guess. I mean, we've got markets for it. Nobody else is doing it in the agency. I think there's a void in the space in general. And he said, well, why don't you just do it? And I did. And that's so, and even though I still do a lot with small businesses, that's really been the path I've been on for the last 7 years, building the brand within the agency for Farm to Fork, and pretty happy about the fact that if you Google Farm to Fork Insurance, I show up on that page.
Yeah, which is amazing. So what was it that attracted you to the ag space? Like why was that the thing that you wanted to go after?
Two things. And really part of it was deep down that I knew that if I was going to be in a niche, that I was going to be spending a lot of time in it, that I needed to really learn it. I was going to have to like kind of live it, eat it, breathe it. It needed to be something that I really was already passionate about. And I knew from my background of having grown up in the city, but having a whole side of the family that was involved in farming in Middle Tennessee, and getting to see that, like on the weekends, we'd go to the country, and I got to be the country mouse out there with the city mouse with the country mice cousins. I had a great time. I got to, play around in barns and, run around in pastures. It was a fantastic experience. And ever since then, there was just something about that appealed to me. And I knew that obviously I live in the city. I've got a little bitty plot of land. Although I did backyard chickens for a while, it's not feasible for me to be a farmer, but I definitely felt like there was an opportunity for me to be able to help people in that space. And it just matched. I thought, if I'm going to have to spend a lot of time there, it might as well be with people I want to spend time with.
Yeah.
And from that, I recognized right off the bat that it couldn't be just strictly farmers. That really a lot of them were already moving into food production. And then even if they weren't, they were working with people who produced in restaurants and beverage makers, craft beverage. It was just a whole little world that I felt like that I could be kind of the connecting point.
Yeah.
And it's just been a marvelous experience to really kind of like embody that farm to fork idea as an insurance agent that's already, very much a part of what we're starting to see as a culture shift in a lot of areas.
Yeah. So you get to be part of the whole experience.
Yeah.
Whether it's, when the food's being grown or, born. And then, to the final dining experience. And now, so you made your own craft beer. You've touched, so you're not just like the insurance person that understands it. You're also like, no, I've lived this. Like, I get it. No, you're not a brewer, but you understand what that process looks like now. So you've really taken the time.
So much better. And I'm going to tell you, I've got a few weeks from now, I'm getting to do something that is right along those same lines. I'm going to be going to the Piedmont Culinary Guild Symposium in Charlotte on the 15th of March. It's a Sunday because they really want a lot of the restaurant workers and so forth to be part of it, as well as farmers and food makers. So Sunday's better because a lot of times it's a little bit slower time maybe in the restaurant business. It's held at Johnson & Wales, which is a culinary school in Charlotte.
Okay.
And the very first few hours of the session, I signed up for the butchery class. And I get to observe a chef and a butcher that I admire both of them greatly. Have known of these people for years now in the Asheville food scene, going to butcher a whole hog. And I get to be right there.
I don't know if I could do. You're tough, Tracy. Man, I'm not even good at killing bugs. Like I get grossed out. So yeah, it's hard for me. And yeah, and honestly, it's part of the reason I became a vegan was that I can't
And
even.
I know that,
No,
that's,
yeah, which I support whatever people want to eat. I don't care. It was, part of me was like, I don't, if I don't want to see where my food comes from, maybe I don't want to eat it, was kind of like
yeah.
part of my thought process. But I do love that you're such a foodie. Like I love it because there was this, okay, so sometimes I get made fun of for taking pictures of my food and they're like, oh, is this your age? Like sometimes people say stuff like that to me. I'm like, this is not like an age specific thing. This is a fun thing because we're now we want to be part of the experience and we want to remember the experience. And so you're getting to live that experience every single day, like whether you're dining out or if you're working, which is super fun. I mean, that has to be like a pretty good bonus to the niche that you've decided to focus on.
I think that it is a bonus. And for me, it was like when you said that about the brewing, that these are the kinds of things that, I'm a little nervous about it because although I eat bacon, I'm just, I have ham, it's just, that's not, I don't think about where it comes from as much. And one of the things that really appealed to me, particularly about this particular class, is one of the two that are going to be there is it's a chef that just won the North Carolina Restaurant Chef of the Year last year.
Okay.
And he is very much into the whole hog, not wasting anything.
Okay.
And the other individual that's going to be there, Meredith Lee, is a former vegan who became a butcher, and her platform is entirely based on not wasting anything. And really, because she does a lot of charcuterie, which uses a lot more of an animal.
Yep.
I knew all this, but I feel like I need to be pushed a little bit because I really want to understand it the next level down. I'm not going to be a butcher.
Right.
But this helps me understand both the people who raise the pigs all the way up through the restaurateurs that are working with pork or trying to find menu items and so forth. I want to get it.
Yeah.
And has nothing to do with insurance, but it has everything to do with being part of that. And that's the opportunity that I've had a chance to do again and again, really, over the last few years, is be a little bit more immersed, not just in the insurance side of it, but really more on the side of the growers and the people who are really behind, the producers, as I call them, because they're producing food.
Right.
And farmers doesn't even almost really encompass what it is they're doing. I think producing food is something that people, can really understand.
Yeah. So you're getting familiar with the entire process, which
Yeah.
is probably not something that a lot of people are doing in whatever niche they might be focused on. It's not like if you're going to focus on, dental school. I mean, you go to the dentist yourself, but you're not necessarily going to be like, well, I want to understand a day in the life of a dentist. You've picked a lane that you can really explore a lot of different fun things, which is, yeah, that's fantastic. So if you had to choose like one of your favorite food experiences, like what's one that just like jumps out at you? Because you've posted so many great photos and I get food envy all of the time, especially when you post your vegan ones. I'm just like, oh gosh, I gotta go visit Tracy soon. But like, do you have like a favorite food experience that you've had during this, maybe in the last, 3 to 6 months?
For me, a lot of what I enjoy is I do get, I'm actually out dating right now, and that's kind of interesting because sometimes I meet people who, even if they're from the area or they're, maybe they're from, an hour or so away, they've not really spent enough time in Asheville, and I can really truly introduce them to restaurants that are in Asheville that are very inventive, that are really doing great things with food. A lot of times it is just, I love that idea of being able to introduce somebody to something they've never tried before. And I had a friend that was visiting in from Charlotte, and I took him to a restaurant that I knew was always just like on top of it. Like every week they changed their menu, and we tried pigtails, like literally the curly
Yeah.
little tail.
Yeah.
And it was very different. And he and I both enjoyed it. And it was a great experience because for me, I could just go somewhere and sit down and really enjoy a meal just from start to finish because it's delicious. But when you have that social aspect of it, where you have somebody else that you both get to sit there and just kind of like experience something for the first time
Together.
and talk about it and really live that to me is probably what I think meals are supposed to be about in general.
Yes.
And the idea that when you post it on Instagram, really that's not too far removed from me saying, hey, I really wish you'd been here to enjoy this with me because look at this. Wasn't this fantastic?
Yeah.
Maybe you should try this sometime. And that I think is as crazy as I know, like literally speaking, I've got a rule. I won't post until after I've finished my entire meal. So like I can take a couple of photos right at the beginning.
Okay.
Before, don't anybody touch anything. Let me take a couple pictures and then let's enjoy because I really want to enjoy it right away. And that's me sharing the part, that's the after effect almost. But whoever I'm with, I just want to see them have the best experience possible, whatever it is that they're ordering. And it may be that I've got friends that I'm like able to go, hey, let's find some place that we all can have something to share. And I've been trying to keep up. Is I actually, when you come to visit me, I've been checking out with my vegan and vegetarian friends the best places to go.
Yes.
Because not every place I go necessarily has as many options as I know are out there. So I got some leads for us, and that's where I know that I have the most fun is when I get to introduce somebody else to a new restaurant, or that we actually just get to experience something together.
Yeah. So I have enjoyed, some people are like, don't you feel like you don't get to eat anything? Like you have no options. And I'm like, no, it's all about being open to exploring the options and finding out what's out there. And like, I have had so many wonderful opportunities where I show up at a restaurant and sometimes I feel pretty spoiled, but like a chef was sitting there waiting for a challenge. And they'll be like, oh, we don't have anything vegan on the menu. Do you mind if I just get creative? And I'm always like, hit me with whatever you got. And so I get some custom dish that they threw together. They may never even replicate it. Like it was a once in a lifetime experience that I got on that plate. So yeah, I totally get being able to have food is an experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so getting to share it with people, it is funny because like when you're in like certain phases of life, it's like you're cruising through meals, right? Like last night it was like, well, let's see how fast we can like get food on the table and off the table. Like, cause like we actually don't want to spend a lot of time working on this.
Right.
And so, yeah, when you get to that point where you get to actually enjoy it, or I love when I get to just like, oh, I can spend 30 minutes eating and nobody's going to ask me to get up and get anything. Like it's nice. And I try to enjoy that. And people will be like, you eat really slow. And I'm like, I'm just enjoying my food right now. So were the pigtails crunchy?
Yeah, they were kind of on the crunchy side. So it wasn't like pork skins or anything else. It was very different. It'd be hard for me even to describe at this point, other than just that it was a really unique experience. And that's it. I know that, and I respect that a lot of my friends, have either they have limitations or they just for their own purposes are more limited in what they choose. They don't eat anything white. No, I'm not kidding. I knew somebody who no sour cream, no yogurt. Like anything, literally, like the color, that was it. Like if it was that, no ranch dressing. Everybody has their own things.
Yeah.
And so I don't expect everybody to be as I feel like open-minded about food as I know that I am.
Yeah.
But that actually has just that's helped me so much because I know that I can go anywhere, I can have just about anything. And, and I'm going to probably find something that I'm going to enjoy. And that's not everybody has that luxury almost.
Right. And if you don't, you at least tried it.
At least. Yes.
Yeah. So this is like a complete side question. Did you watch Growing Pains?
Yes.
So do you remember when Kirk Cameron, whatever his character was, but he brings his girlfriend home and she's a vegetarian, like almost vegan, but she's like somewhere in between. And they have the argument about how she won't eat the pot roast and she doesn't eat anything that used to have a face.
I don't think I remember that episode, but
I will send you the clip because it always makes
the clip.
It always makes me laugh. I'm like, this is my life. I just don't need anything that had a face.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so no, I love that you share that experience. Not only is it powerful in terms of like creating that relationship that you really want to create in the insurance space, because it's great promotion for wherever you're at.
Yeah.
Hopefully they remember that you were there and that you said something great about their food. But it also brings all of the rest of us into your world, which is, a great place to be, is in Tracy's
Well, and
world.
I appreciate that. And I know that, I don't probably share enough about things like my daughter. I've got a 27-year-old daughter.
Okay.
But I don't post about her very often because I never get to see her. She works in the restaurant business.
Okay.
And because she works at a local restaurant that not only has lunch and dinner, they also cater. She's gone all the time. And so our few times that we get a chance to see each other are so rare that a lot of times I don't even remember to pull my camera out because I'm too busy having fun with her. But that is something that's been really wonderful to have her close by. She actually is living with me currently, and getting to spend just little bits of time with her when I do get a chance to has been really awesome. She's a lot of fun and doesn't look anything like me. And everybody's like, "Is she a redhead?" No. She's glad she's not, because I told her if you'd been a redhead, I was going to name you Ariel, because this was around the time Little Mermaid came out.
Yeah.
She said I would have killed you. So her name's Alex, short for Alexandra. And like I said, she's just, really busy right now with what she's doing. She's not really sure if that's what she wants to continue with. She worked for years for a health food chain that just recently actually announced that they're going out of business, Earth Fare. And that was something she grew up with, as far as like having spent so many years working for them. And she and I we have a lot of similarities on some of those things, like appreciation for food. And I taught her from a very early age of appreciation of wine, so that I wouldn't just have her like out there drinking wine coolers. Nothing against them. I'm sure they're tasty, but I wanted her to have a better palate.
Yes.
So we have, when we do get a chance to spend time together and go have a good meal, or we do get to go out and do things together, it's really special. But I often forget just to take a selfie when I get a chance to do it. So
yeah, every once in a while I'll see a picture of it, like when you guys were on vacation.
Yes, we did, and I made her go surfing with me and parasailing.
Yeah.
So here's the fun thing.
Yeah.
So this is the cool part is here we were on vacation, and my mom and my sister had pretty much said, what are we going to do? And I said, well, I really need to go to the beach. I've got some stuff to check off. And they're like, okay, Tracy's got more stuff to check off. But at the same time,
were they tired of your 50 adventure at that point, or were they?
Totally. I think both of them. I think everybody was, that for my family at least. But no, so they're like, okay, let's go to the beach. And I didn't tell Alex, like, before we went, that I was going to sign her up for the surfing lesson with me, and I was also going to sign up for her to go parasailing with me. And I just basically drug her along. The surfing went well, except for I think that she just got tired of getting knocked off the board, and I wasn't tired because I had not gotten all the way up yet, and so I would have just kept on and kept on. But being fair-skinned, both of us, there was really only so long we could do it.
Yeah.
Because he would have let us keep on going. It was a cool experience. Well, then the next day, 2 days later, we got to do the parasailing. And she seems like she's so nervous. And I'm like, she's a pretty daring chick. What's so scary about it? Well, what I wasn't thinking of is 400 feet above the water. I mean, that's how far you go up when you do the parasailing. It wasn't scary to me because I had already jumped out of an airplane just a couple of months before. Yeah. So the level of scariness wasn't the same to me as it would have been to somebody who she'd never been up in the air that far. 400 feet felt like a long way up.
Yeah.
And she was watching everybody else going, I don't know about this. And I'm like, really? This is going to be great. And she's like, But I will tell you that it was probably good for both of us. We waited until after we had already gone surfing, because we saw all kinds of things in the water we were out in the water with. We may not have gotten in the water to begin with.
Like critters?
2 sharks.
Oh.
2 sharks and jellyfish.
Oh, yeah. Jellyfish are
That's serious.
Brutal. Yeah. Yeah.
But
And they're
we didn't
everywhere.
know. And it
Yeah.
wasn't at the exact same beach, but still it was like, oh, it's a good thing we didn't do that first. But it was so much fun. And getting to experience that with her, you know, when I think about the ones that I had the best experiences with,
Yeah.
and of all things, it really, at least two of my best experiences have been with insurance agents.
Oh,
So
yes.
Julie Brendel at the beginning
Yes.
was like, okay, let me add to your list. Come stand up paddling with me. And I was like, okay, where are we going to go stand up paddling? And she's like, we're going to go when we go to New Orleans. We're going to go and we're going to go stand up paddling a bayou. And I'm like, in March? Because it was, you know, a year ago
Yeah.
that was what happened. And it was, the water was perfect. It was a perfect day. She picked a great place for us to go. There was an alligator.
Oh, that's
But that
right.
experience was so much better because I did get to spend it with her. And it was something
Yeah.
she loves to do. She goes back home in Illinois all the time. I mean, Indiana all the time. So something that, you know, in the summer, she's got places in Indiana she can go and she's got a board.
Yeah.
This was not a time of year, nor was it an opportunity for me to come visit her. It was just, it was going to coincide.
Yeah.
Let's make it happen. And she helped me make it happen. And then I've got a friend, Kelly Heron, who's out of Georgia. And she's an insurance agent that I also never met before until she said, come hike Tallulah Gorge with me. It is the deepest canyon east of, well, the west, basically, east of the Mississippi, literally
Okay.
speaking.
Okay.
So it's in, we did. And I got to go with her and her sister, and she hosted, and it was just a fantastic experience because somebody that, you know, that enjoys hiking as well, very active. We knew each other from Instagram, and to get to sit around and talk about insurance while, you know, hiking Tallulah Gorge was a once in a lifetime experience, in my opinion. So it was
Yeah.
great.
So I think that one of the things that we fall victim to is that we can have these very social media relationships. We're in a hyper connected world. I can essentially look at you anytime I want
Yeah.
to. But then how do we really start building those relationships? And you used the year of your 50th birthday to really start, obviously, like looking at, like, you probably see yourself differently now after 50 adventures than you did when you started. And
Definitely.
you met interesting people. You did really, you know, just fantastic and exciting things that you probably, you know, maybe they were on your bucket list. Other people added them to your list, which is
They did
a
add
beautiful thing.
things that I would have, like Ryan Hanley giving me the stand-up
Oh yeah.
comedy. I would never have thought about that one on my own, because
Would
even
you
though
do it
I always
again?
thought, oh, that seems like a lot of fun,
No. It's not so
it
much.
wasn't a lot of fun, but I'm
Yeah.
glad I did it.
Yeah.
And it really, in some ways, almost gave me like a feeling of being more brave. I mean, like that feeling of like that, I did that, even than almost the skydiving. Because the skydiving, as scary as it is, and you know, it's a very frightening experience. I mean, I know people who say, I could never do it. I get it. You know, I did it almost not having even researched it first so that I could do it and not be as scared until the door opened. But you've got a pilot that knows where they're taking you. They're going to take you to the best possible place.
Right.
You've got a professional you're going to be attached to when you're tandem jumping that's had hundreds of jumps, and they're wanting to get to the ground too. So they're going to do everything. They're going to make sure that
they're invested.
all that is taken care of for you. So when you go, you're with a team that's going to get you where you need to be.
Right.
You go put yourself on a stage, and I don't care if there's 20 people or there's 200 people, and you're in that spotlight, and it's just you and that microphone. And the expectation is not only are you going to deliver from an entertainment standpoint, but that you're going to do something that is really even beyond that. Like I can do a speech in front of people and have done it for years, but to make people laugh, like you're going to take what you know and you're going to somehow transform it into something that people are going to find funny, is a lot harder than it looks. And there's nobody else up there but you. And you're it. It's all on you. And if you get that laugh, like even one, like, I didn't have a lot, but I had some, I felt pretty good about that because that was all on me. And that's where you go, that really, you had to dig deep, and really pull out. And that wasn't something that everybody's going to do.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where I think that it's more important that you actually, like give yourself credit for having done things that in this case, I would never have thought about doing without somebody having put me up to it. But that I'm very thankful that pushed me out of my comfort zone, even from a comfort zone of having done public speaking before, but actually to be put in a situation that was so different and out of my element.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's incredibly brave. And I think, so did you feel like you channeled your Mrs. Maisel?
No, I absolutely wish that I had. And that was really a situation where I had all these expectations, and I say that I would never do it again, but I know that I would really at this point now, because a lot of what I did for the 50 for 50, I had no way to spend a lot of time preparing for.
Yeah.
There was only a few things that I really had to do. Like in preparing for the sprint triathlon, I had to learn to swim a lane. I had to learn that. That was going to be a have to. And road bike, which I had never really spent any time on a road bike. Those were two things I had to spend some time in advance doing. But most of the rest of the things, I didn't go to a school for it. I didn't spend a lot of time researching. I knew that I prepared my routine, but would I go back and maybe try to go to some more open mic nights? And some of them even like you can go and like spend a few minutes before the open mic, just trying some new material out.
Yeah.
That would have been a good experience for me. That would have been something that would have been helpful. But instead, I kind of went in and I won't say cold, because I had done the prep work that I felt was necessary and learned so much more from it. That's where, sometimes being a beginner, it's not a bad thing, because it does force you to go ahead and do something to at least realize, is it something that would be worthwhile to try again? Maybe I don't want to do it again, but now I know what I would need to do in order to be more prepared and feel better about it.
Yeah. So do you have a top 3 that you would do again?
I can't wait to go stand-up paddling again.
Okay.
With or without Julie, I would love to go with Julie again, but that's one that felt so good. I want to go back, and I'm determined this time to actually get my butt all the way up off the surfboard. That was so much fun. I had such a good time with that. That was something that I felt like, I could do this. I could really do this. And as far as things to do again, beyond that, I really think that some of it's just, knowing that where I started and where I got to, I just know that I want to keep going with. And that, that translates to a lot of the things that I did, whether it be backpacking, and I challenged myself to do a much longer backpacking type of trip at one point. I did a all day, that it was a lot longer day than I'd ever done before. And I also hiked in snow, which was backpacked in snow, which is the first time I'd ever done that.
Yeah.
And those are all things I want to get back out and do more of. And it really took that little dip of the toe in those waters to see that I could be more than just a casual hiker or just an overnight backpacker. Occasionally I could really push myself a little bit further. And now I understand more about what I need to do in order to be prepared for that. And I think that that's major. But I never would have thought that I would have ever wanted to get out and on open water. And where did that come from? Well, when you have a little bit better swimming ability, then when you're out in some open water, then you're not as panicked about the fact that you flipped over. You're like, I can get back up. And if I needed to swim to shore, I could do that. So there were so many things that tied in together, and I didn't even realize it at the time, that built on each other. And that's really exciting to me, because I think that I can continue to utilize those skills to do other things in my life.
Yeah. Which is, I love it. I was like, should I do this when I turn my next milestone birthday? Seriously, I started thinking about it. I'm like, well, I'll have to see like how many things I could actually come up with. I'm not sure. So when it comes to your life outside of work, so you mentioned that you're dating now. What is that what is that like? Like what, and you can give as much history on that as you want or not. I certainly want to ask you to share anything that you're not comfortable sharing, but I mean, what is that like? Do you feel like this 50 adventure helped you like develop some skills, or at least the aptitude to just kind of push a little further into that scene than, or maybe sooner than you thought you would, or, what's that like for you now?
Well, and it's very different than I had been single for a while, about 10 years ago. And that was in itself kind of a jarring experience, because that was really right when I would say a lot of online dating had started really becoming more popular. Now being back at it again, it's much different, because I'm recognizing that one of the things that I have to accept, or at the very least figure out what to do about, is based on where I've taken myself. That, do I really know how to even relate to somebody who maybe has gotten to this point in time in their late 40s, early 50s, even later 50s, and because of whatever their circumstances, or maybe just their own personality, they've not really pushed themselves at all, and maybe are not interested in pushing themselves further.
Right.
And it literally, in some ways, it's really kind of raised the bar on the kind of person that I know that I want to be with. That they don't have to be the most ambitious, the richest, smartest, most physically fit person on the planet, but I need him to understand what drives me. And I'd really like him to be pretty driven and passionate about something as well. And if some of those things coincide, we can go have a craft beer together and talk about how awesome it is that it's got this, that, and the other, or we can have a good meal together, or we can go, hike up to a mountaintop and see a sunset together. That's even better. But at the very least, I know that it's changed what I'm looking for in a partner, in a future partner. And in some ways that just makes it a lot harder, because there are so many opportunities that are out there. And I'm kind of excited about that, because that means that, that it's not like there's nobody out there. It's just recognizing that, I could maybe go on a date a couple, 3 times a week if I really wanted to, and I wanted to go that route. But instead, after having dabbled a little bit in that, I realized, that's just not, meeting as many people as possible is great, but now I'm actually trying to figure out how to balance it.
Yeah.
I really want to meet more people out doing the things that I'm doing, which means trying to find groups that are active in those kinds of areas. And there are meetup.com is a great place to go to find people who are, hiking, or that are, yoga, or whatever it is that, that somebody wants to really do. Realizing that, there's certain, places out there that I need to be out sometimes, that I need to put myself out there a little bit more often personally, like not just online. But that at the very least, I also, want to figure out a more strategic, this sounds terrible, strategic way of finding somebody that I know that I'm going to suit, hopefully, because we're going to have that same desire for adventure.
Yeah.
And that right there, I think that's what I know that I want to pursue for the next lifetime. For the rest of my life, I want to be that person, and I need a partner in crime that can do that with me.
Yeah. Which I think I love that. I think it's, like when you're first dating, when you're young, it's like, okay, well, like maybe I'm just a little more flexible, or I just like, I want to attract a mate. Like, I don't even know that you're like, I want to attract the right one. You're like, I just want to be with somebody. And so, and also like in your early 20s, your identity is different. What you find your identity in is different. And right now, I feel like you're in this place where you're very self-assured, you know who you are, And you don't need some other guy to come along and tell you who you are or complete your identity. Like you're like you said, you're looking for that partner in crime. And yeah, it's like, keep those standards up. You're a catch. So
thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. I mean, and I think I'm excited for you. I know it's probably a lot more of an intimidating experience than I probably recognize now at this point in my life. But yeah, I mean, putting yourself out there and going on any sort of date, because like, what are the odds you're going to know this person really well? You know, it is, I mean, even if it's not a blind date, it's kind of a blind date still. So yeah, it's, it can, I don't know, but I'm sure that'll be there will be more adventures from Tracy Cotton in the world of dating.
Definitely.
You'll be able to write a book maybe afterwards about what that experience looks like. Hopefully mostly positive things, but also lessons that you can pass on to other people, because I'm sure there's probably going to be some maybe there won't be any duds in there. I shouldn't even say that. They're all going to be great experiences.
I'm hoping.
You're gonna.
I've already seen some of the kind of not so, there's been some interesting, but that's, I think that's the other thing is, I've got friends that are like, wow, I know you've been kind of like looking around and doing this for about 6 months now. I'd be already worn out by now. And I'm not gonna lie. I mean, that's where you start becoming much more specific and intentional helps. But it is an adventure, even going out with somebody new. Yeah. And, and that's something, that it may or may not, but if you show up, you're going to get a good experience one way or the other if you have the right intentions. And, right. They may not be, all that they portray themselves to be. But, regardless, it's still a learning experience. It's certainly not anything that, that I'm going to like lose sleep over, because I know that, I wasn't somebody's cup of tea.
Right. Oh. Right. Which is good. I mean, cause you're not, you're sure in who you are, and you don't need someone else to, fill in the blanks or anything like that. So if you looked back through, your adult life, or even you can go back further than that, I guess, but like, what was like a major pivotal point in your life? And, what did you learn? What would you go back and tell yourself now, just like in retrospect?
The thing that, I think that insurance plays into this, because it's something that I didn't realize. I've been doing some research on personality types, and I've done some reading up on the Enneagram.
Yes.
And
what's yours?
I'm a 7.
Oh.
Does that surprise you?
Well, I'm going to have to read up on it. I'll let you know if it's surprising
on it,
me.
But once you see it, you'll be like, that's so Tracy.
Yeah.
And I had really kind of, I want to say rebelled against it for a while, but it was one of those kind of things where I definitely saw that there was like some negative things, because each one of those personality types has a lot of great positive things, and then there's usually some negative stuff that comes along with it. And those are the things that people have to mature through and grow through and get better at. One of them is that 7s typically don't keep a job for a very long period of time. And I was like, how can I be a 7 if I've been in insurance this many years? Yeah. How is this possible? Because I can't be. I must be a 3 because I want to be a 3 so bad, because I just think I should be a 3. And that was my thing. But what I realized was something that is the beauty of the industry that we're in, is the idea that I can be wherever I want to be, from a geographical standpoint, from do I want to face the public? Do I want to face the back room? Where do I want to fit in the space? Am I somebody who's much more detail oriented and really loves the policy language of it? Or am I somebody who's kind of skirts past that and is really more about just the overall, risk management aspect of just making sure that somebody is where do they need to be, and making sure that they, feel good about their policy, that they have that good relationship with me as an agent, or whatever role it is that I'm playing. I just have remade myself. So like I said, I kind of got burnt out with personal lines at one point. I went into commercial lines. Commercial lines served me for a long time. And yet I realized that I needed to go even deeper into that. And I needed to find where that was, what I looked like in that space. And I don't know what 10 years from now is going to look like, but I'm hopeful that I can continue to grow even within the niche that I've developed, because I think that it's possible that it could change over time. And, and if I was geographically or was not actually an agent, could be working on the company side, there's opportunity to be who you are wherever you want to be within the insurance industry.
Yeah.
And grow within it. And I don't know what I would have done with other industries. There's other industries that I don't know that I could have done that with, because it literally, I think probably the if you had to look back and say, okay, well, this is the pattern, is that she just never stopped growing and changing and trying to be the best that she could be. And that's what I want to be known for. I mean, I want my legacy to be that, I left things when I felt like that a relationship was over, or that, that a job was over, specifically, even within the same agency, left one job into another job. But I found that, and that, that when you find something like I know that you've done, where 15 years is a long time to be where you were and make a transition to something brand new. But when you know that you're living the dream, those dreams do change though, and not ever just going, well, I guess this is the best it's going to be. Well, if it's the best it's going to be, it's because you decided to stay there.
Yeah.
And I never felt like that I ever had to be. I never had to stand still if I did not want to. And there's times when I haven't probably stood still long enough to enjoy what I've achieved, even because I was so ready to move on to the next thing. But at the very least, I never let myself feel boxed in to where I could not make more of a situation, or I could not find a way to a better situation from where I was.
Yeah, which is beautiful, because I think that when I talk to people, especially other women in the industry, I think the thing that I hear a lot is like, I just feel stuck and I don't know what to do next. And I think that you've done a good job of being just very, very self-aware of when you're starting to feel that, and not waiting until you're 2 years into that going, oh yeah, now I feel even more stuck. I didn't take the time to recognize it then. So you really have just been, like cognizant of that, and making sure that you're mindful and ready to start seeking out that next opportunity, or creating the next opportunity that you wanted to really, pursue. So if you had to give a piece of advice to, somebody starting out in the industry, I mean, I'd like to say, a 22, 24-year-old female starting, but really could be anybody. Like what kind of advice would you give that person?
I would definitely say for them to always be true to themselves, and look for the ways that they know that they can make the most impact personally. And it may be, in their small town, they actually, are able to do something in the community because of their connections in insurance, because of their influence perhaps of being, part of that community. Or it's that they, impact the other employees where they work, because they really are paying attention to what is necessary in order for the agency to grow, and they come up with something, that helps everybody. That if you're true to yourself and you're not letting yourself, you never, accept that that's the best you can do, that you will find that doors open, not just because you made them, although sometimes you have to. Sometimes you have to break down a wall to get to something. Yeah. And so that's fuel your own passion. Don't let things go cold. If you start feeling that, then that's the time to know that then perhaps the fuel is running out, and you've got to figure out what's going to get you to the next level. Don't be afraid of hard work. I mean, there's definitely, there's something to be said for actually like doing the thing. And that can be like actually tackling that same thing day in, day out. Doesn't mean that it has to be all exciting, but So you can't be afraid of the work, but at the same time, just recognizing that it doesn't matter that you're 24. You've still got something to say. You've got a voice out there, and you've got something, that you can bring to the table, and, maximize on that. And just, by you bringing the best you every day, that gets recognized. And I think our industry is very good about finding the folks that are willing to put the work in and really are committed to and in some cases really committed to the idea that it's a team effort, and that we do better with each other. And so that's the other thing. Don't burn bridges. That's probably my other best advice.
Yeah.
It's too small of an industry. Yep. And if you want to be able to have the world at your fingertips, from the future on, never say never. Never say you're not going to do commercial insurance, because you might. And, and never say that I would never, do that because I don't think I can, or I'm not really suited for that, because I think that's also a way to really, end up not achieving all that you really want to do in life.
Yeah. Well, I think that's beautiful advice, and I love it. It's, my gosh. And the beautiful thing about it is it's not really exclusive to insurance. I mean, for anybody building a career, those are good things to keep in mind. If, if the passion starts to die, either you got to find a way to refuel it, or you got to figure out where you're being redirected. And you've been so wonderful about just embracing that journey. And I think part of it's probably self-led, right? And part of it was whoa, you see where dots are starting to connect in your life, and you're oh, this is where we're going. And I think it's such a beautiful part of your journey is just this amazing adventure, one adventure after another, and you're just open to the possibilities. And I think it's great. And there's so much that people can learn from you. I learn something from you every time I interact with you, whether it's through a social post or on the You Don't Know Schmidt podcast. Yeah, I mean, and I think that you're an example of, well, one, why insurance is the greatest industry, and why it's just a lot of fun. I know it's hard for people to understand that insurance is fun, but you truly have made a career out of having fun with your work. And not everybody gets to say something like that. So yeah, I think it's fantastic. So one more thing that I wanted to ask you before we close out the show, if you had to pick, I would say 1 to 3 people, in terms of who's had the biggest impact on your life, whether it's your career or personally, who would you identify on that list?
My mother is the number one on the list. She was a career woman from the time that, she always worked. There was only a few years that she was working for my father, but she was still working. It just wasn't out in the, public. She actually worked with him. He had an HVAC business, and she did the books and answered the phones for a while when my sister was really young, because she was a preemie. But before that, she'd always worked. And after that, she always worked. And literally towards the end of her career, she made some really bold moves. And my dad, who was pretty much already ready to retire because he was a few years older, kind of just went along with her and let her do some of those things that she really wanted to do, to really finish out her career in a place that she could feel good about, that she'd really done all the things she wanted to do. She went back to school when she was much older. She was probably in her late 30s when she went back, because the company she was working for would not promote her without a 2-year degree. And she went back and got a 2-year degree. And that was monumental for her, because she was doing that while she was working. She, went to school,
Wow.
And did the whole night shift thing. And at that point, luckily, we were a little bit older. It helped her out because she didn't have to worry as much with some of those kinds of things. But she still, to this day, I'll call her up and I'll just say, what do you think I should say, to my boss about what I want to do with something? Or I'm got this challenge and I'm really not sure how to go about, handling it, because she had over 100 people underneath her at one point. And when she was in management, wow. She's dealt with employee relations, she's dealt with corporate life. And I just think the world of what she's created. And I think that that's really where, I get it from, is that I know that, I saw how much she loved it and how much it was a part of her life, as well as the family and as well as her friends and as well as the community. She never let any of that out of her sight just because of work, but it was something that definitely brought her joy, and that she felt very inspired and challenged and motivated to continue to do, until she, just was ready to retire. And it was, and even afterwards, she's continued to be very active in lots of other things. And that's something that I look at as being a lifelong learner, and somebody who, continues to be passionate about life, is because of her. And then I would have to say that really in the insurance space, two people actually probably have been the most influential for me. And one of them is a gentleman named Terry Tadlock. And he teaches, and he's an insurance agency owner, has been in insurance for many, many, many years. But he was one of my main instructors when I was going through the certified insurance counselor, that CIC training. He kept on being like he was the instructor for this and the instructor for that. And the few times that we had a chance to really interact outside of just the classroom, he was very inspiring and very, very, I want to say that he was probably just very motivating, in that he just would say, hey, you really ought to do this and you ought to do that. And he actually has encouraged me to maybe even continue into teaching, because that's something that he knows that I might have some desire for some point in time in my career, when I'm not, as focused in the sales and hands-on as I am right now. But somebody like that believed in me when they barely knew me enough to say, you've got this and you need to continue on with it. And it was really very inspiring to me. And then I've got another person outside of the insurance realm that is also part of the farm to fork atmosphere. Her name's Leah McGrath, and she's the corporate dietitian for Ingles grocery stores. And okay. She's based out of here in West North Carolina. We met on Twitter.
See, there we go.
And it was strictly just, she would tweet all the time. She was very active on Twitter, and I was pretty active, of course, at the time as well. She was really focusing on, she recognized a need within what her role was for Ingles, is to try to help people understand where their food came from. And over the last 4 years, we've developed a friendship over really just having similar passions for this whole area. And we've got an opportunity she's given me opportunities to travel, because she's put me up for speaking opportunities. I got to go on a trip once, because she basically said, I can't go, you should send Tracy. And I can't even begin to tell you how much of a mentor she's been for me, because she's fighting the good fight on social media, where now I see that it's getting to be a much bigger discussion of where food comes from and the misinformation about certain types of things that are out there, and how she really just keeps on talking about, let's look at the science of things. Let's not just talk about, oh, this is, whatever woo-woo that's out there. She's very, very committed to that. She's committed to working for a company that offers choices. She'll tell you she goes to farmers markets all the time, but she's glad to work for a company that if she wants to go to 11 o'clock at night and pick up an avocado, she can do that.
Right.
And so you've got to have all that out there, or that there's options within the grocery store that she works for organic and for gluten-free, and all the things that she knows that certain people are going to need, that they want to answer all those needs as well. And so she's promoted that within her role. And she is such a kind of person that puts up other women for, when she sees somebody else who is doing the right things, she promotes them. And I'm not the only one. She's got other dietitians that she does that for. She's got other people in the farm to fork space that she does that for, whether it be chefs or food makers. She's just a giver. She thinks nothing about using her influence to help other people. And that to me has been a major source of inspiration for me.
Well, I love it. I love that you have these strong women in your life to lift you up. And you are also another strong woman that lifts up others. And I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for coming on, sharing a little bit of your life with us. I love getting a glimpse of everything that makes up Tracy Cotton, and I look forward to the next time that our paths cross. So thank you again so much.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much, Olivia.
All right. Bye-bye.